Hey everybody, Jason Burmis here, and we got a fun show for you today. So as many of you know, I was over at the Capitol covering it for the second time in a month, and while I was there, I met even more people who are on the internets doing their thing, talking about what's going on in this crazy mixed up world. And one of the podcasts I happened to end up doing was Chrissy Mayer's. Now, I hope it's Mayr and not Mayr. Who knows? I could
Mayr. That's fine.
It's Mayr. No, I fucked it up. It's okay.
It's okay.
That's fine. But of course I was going to screw that up. But we did her podcast. It was really interesting. It was entertaining. We've got her on. Before we get to her, I do want to remind everybody we are fully demonetized on the YouTube platform for 10 plus months. Consider making at least the free Rockfin. Today's exclusive, although we streamed it live, they've just changed servers. Things are happening. People are upset at me. Guys, they're not doing anything nefarious on purpose. And I have now re-uploaded that exclusive, and that'll remain exclusive up there for at least half the day. Maybe I'll put it up tonight on YouTube, but a very important video. So at least make the free account if you want to support me. $9.99 a month, and then you get all the creators. It's like a Netflix for creators. The GoFundMe link is down below. $5, $10, $15 means the world to me. All the documentary films are free in the playlist section. Check them out if you have not yet. Loose Change Final Cut, Fabled Enemies, Invisible Empire, A New World Order Defined, and Shade the Motion Picture. And make sure that you are subscribed, thumbing these up. Guys, before the third Whitney Webb video we posted yesterday, I'm not even kidding you, they got 17 dislikes in from one bot account. That's how much the haters are in full force. And I know one of the professional trolls that is in court all over, I'm dare not going to speak his name, but like that is in the comments section, always trying to, promote people that want me in court and all this Johnny nonsense. Not going to happen. Not going to give you the satisfaction. So create 15 more bot accounts and give me 50 thumbs down in the beginnings of my videos, and I could give a flying fucks less. All right. With that being said, I think that's the attitude we need for this one, because she is a sassy comedian, to say the least, a podcaster, and I believe that you also not only were at DC, I met you this time around, but you were at DC in the beginning of the month too?
Yes, well, I was there in November and December, so this was my third time at being a domestic terrorist by being in DC.
And it's haha, funny that we say that now. But we left, or at least I left. Yeah, you left too, because you ended up going to catch a train, and I believe it was on Friday, right? We stayed an extra day.
It was my train was on Thursday.
Thursday, yeah. Okay. So it was Thursday. The Capitol had already happened. That's right. It was the day after. And there were all these rumblings that they were going to try to impeach anyway, that they were going to try to invoke the 25th Amendment, that the domestic terror paperwork was already really on the table. And all of those happen to be based in fact. And we end up talking about them on your podcast. And by this Monday, basically all of those things that we did discuss came to fruition. So before we even get to that, tell people how you got involved in this whole thing, because you don't seem like somebody that would have started a political podcast, right? Your podcast is mostly about other stuff.
Yeah, no, I really kind of fell into all of this by accident. Like everything about my upbringing and what college I went to and who my friends were, like I was just a few years ago, I was a women's studies minor at a liberal arts college in Connecticut. And so I was a, card carrying feminist, like all the things, all the stereotypes. Right. And then I, got into comedy. I've been doing stand up for about 10 years now. Same thing. Always voted a Democrat, never really cared about politics until really the last couple of years. People throw around the term cancel culture a lot, but it wasn't until I started seeing the kind of woke, and I had considered myself a Democrat. God, I think I might even still be a registered Democrat, but I was seeing this woke liberal comedy mob just coming after anybody who would make a joke or do a character or really do anything funny and just be like, well, you're, that's insensitive, that's stereotype, that's not woke. And I would see this woke liberal comedy mob in New York. And of course, these are all people that aren't working, aren't busy, aren't crushing it. It's nobody whose career I admire. Coming after myself and others, really, I think a lot of it is is really jealousy, but the quote right thing to do is like come after somebody for not being woke, you know? And that's when I was really activated into this whole movement, was seeing, you know, my First Amendment and my friends' First Amendment rights as far as comedy goes, like really being trampled on. And I was like, oh, wow, like this is my thing. And that's what's been interesting about really the last year, is meeting people such as yourself and everybody from all walks of life. It's like we're all coming towards this thing, or we're all flowing into this ocean from different streams, right? Like I'm coming in there from like the First Amendment, freedom of speech. You know, some people are big 2A people. Some people are like, my fucking small business was shut down. Some people are like, it's been longer than 2 weeks. It's strange, you know, like people are waking up for different reasons, that, you know, whatever their values are, but like, you know, whatever it is, that's great, because that's more people on the team who are seeing the light and helping fight against this. So, and I mean, you know, I was like upset about like the comedy woke stuff, and it's just like I felt like I was being hindered, stifled creatively, but for me it took a lot. It took like several months for me to really like put all the pieces together, follow the money. It wasn't until March of last year that I went to LA to do stand up and also do a couple of podcasts. I had done Sam Tripoli's Tinfoil Hat podcast, you know, just to talk about a safe topic like aliens, something we all know, you know, something nobody can really deny. I was like, sure, I'll talk about that.
I deny it all the time, but we'll get there.
And I was like, sure. I mean, come on, that's not really pushing anyone's buttons. Mm-hmm. And just from talking to him and a few other of the guests, and like kind of just getting more into this like conspiracy world, and all a conspiracy really is just being open-minded. It's just thinking about what if, it's thinking about possibilities. And like, honestly, if something is possible, is it probable? You know, it's, but they've demonized anybody who's a free thinker, anybody who's a conspiracy thinker, and to be, you know, part of these people that we've now all been shuffled off and silenced. And, yeah, so I was really activated from the comedy world, and then really since March going, oh shit, like everything is so much deeper than I thought, and just connecting the dots and meeting more smart people such as yourself that are passionate and who love this country. And yeah.
I mean, and the thing is, look, we're not perfect, and it's so funny because...
Speak for yourself.
What's that?
Speak for yourself. I'm just kidding.
But... like, for instance, you talk about how you came from, you know, a primarily left or Democratic background. I ended up doing Graham Elwood's show later that night on Thursday. You know, he was on there and he was talking about these things. And I'm like, well, I got this footage. I'm hooked up right now. I'll throw him a super chat. So he ended up throwing me on. And all these people are like, oh, why are you having this alt-right loser on? And he's a Nazi. And I'm like, in my film Invisible Empire, I literally go after Hitler. I've never been a Nazi. When I was at the G20 in 2009, because this is by far not my first rodeo, I was marching with people like Code Pink, and I spent a lot of time with Cindy Sheehan. And it blows my mind that an issue like election integrity, or an issue like getting out of the Middle East, or an issue like closing Guantanamo Bay is a right or left, a conservative or a liberal issue. It is not. And again, there is no perfect form of government, but we've gotten so far away of what a constitutional republic is, a system of checks and balances that is supposed to be at the behest of the people, and we are supposed to be able to redress our grievances. No, now it is a corporate lobby fest infiltrated by every military industrial complex, big tech company you can imagine, dictating what we can and cannot do, dictating what we can and cannot say, dictating what we can and cannot not hear and see. And that is a huge, huge issue. And, you know, I just want to talk about this weekend. What was your overall take? You were on the ground. Take people through, it's not a weekend, I guess, because it started on a Wednesday.
It felt like a weekend, yeah.
Yeah, it felt like a weekend, right? Because everything's upside down. I don't even know, what's today, Tuesday? Everything feels weird still. Finally, my nieces are back in school, so there's some kind of semblance of normalcy, but that's only part-time. So give people your take on what happened in D.C.
Yeah, So yeah, I thought it was going to be pretty chill, just like the last two rallies. I figured, this is going to be underreported, just like the last two rallies. I feel like, because I saw in November and December, someone from ABC or the mainstream media, they do like a flyover at 6 a.m. and go, oh, look at this pathetic showing of Trump supporters. There's 40 people here. They do that on purpose to try to tell the masses that this is not a strong movement, that there are not a lot of patriots out there who believe what we believe. And I figured, okay, this will just be kind of, they'll sort of shuffle it off like the other two. And so, I take the train out from New York, subway, Amtrak. I go maskless the whole way. I go, all right, this is going to be pretty chill. No one's giving me shit except for one guy when I came back from the bathroom. He was like, mask. And I just was like, oh, okay. Because I'm going to respond to a random man yelling. But other than that, it was chill. Get out there. Tuesday night, there were some speakers in Freedom Plaza. I met up with a friend of mine, Riss Flex, who's got a really fantastic YouTube channel as well. I met up with a friend of mine, Tim Young, other folks that are just there to cover the event. People can debate over, how legit we are. I mean, honestly, at the end of the day, we're people that are there to see an event for ourselves rather than simply just believe what we're told. And, my friend Tina Forte was out there. She's super involved. There were some, hurdles like the Harrington closing down. There were a few hotels that had shut their doors, but people all found rooms and were like, all right, this is going to be fine. And then it was like, all right, Wednesday morning is going to be super early. You got to be there at 7. It's going to be huge. We're excited. We're pumped. There was some disorganization about, where to meet, but I mean, anyone who was there could see like, oh shit, if you didn't get there like at 6, you were going to be hundreds of thousands of people in the back, which was fine. There were screens. We could see what was going on. And honestly, I was taking a lot of shots and video, and I was just overwhelmed like I was with every other march. I was overwhelmed with how much love I was surrounded by, and I was like, wow, this is real America. It's super diverse, super loving. 99.99% of the people who were there were just there to hold a flag and be present and make their voices heard. And in fact, if we're using the standards of what's acceptable behavior for Antifa or BLM, we were way more chill. And that's what's particularly infuriating. It's not that we're being censored. It's that we are literally in an abusive relationship with the media and the left. It's like, if you've ever dated somebody who like gaslights you and makes you feel like you're crazy and completely denies your reality, like that's what's going on,
Well, let's talk about that for a second, because I don't think it's new to this Trump phenomena. I think it's new to a lot of people because they were buying into what the mainstream was telling them before this and kind of, figured out, wait, Russiagate's not real. But as far as, it still happens to me on a constant basis, especially with 9/11 Truth and, talking about just facts, things I can prove beyond a reasonable doubt. Doesn't matter. Just like, no. And it reminds me so much. I feel like the ultimate example of that in the mainstream was still that moment when Trump was sitting across from Leslie on 60 Minutes, and he's going, Leslie, the guy's eating ice cream, and there's this this laptop scandal with his son Hunter, and she's like, no, there's no scandal, no. And he goes, Leslie, they spied on my campaign. No, we can't. This is 60 Minutes, sir. And I'm just like, all right, I get it now. I'm not the president of the United States. And I mean, this has happened to me again and again and again. And what people, again, have to understand is that you're never going to change the mainstream media. And I'm glad that you use the terminology of an abusive relationship, because I've been saying that now for a decade and a half. All right, that's what this is. First of all, these are the things that the mainstream and modern politics treats anybody who questions things with evidence that they don't want to go along with that narrative. There's two things. There's the abusive relationship, like you're coming home and, the hubby's leaving, he's banging who he wants, you might get a backhand on the way out, and he might come home drunk. Who knows? And that's just the way it is, and you're sticking around because he's paying the bills, and you feel abused, and you keep going back. The other one is that they treat you literally like a child. and want to like pat you on the head. And that's nice. That's really, that's nice. You did that. That's so cute, you know, and Santa Claus is coming. And for those that have kind of broken out of that, however, there's this kind of third narrative that's pushed, whereas you can be inactive, don't worry. The superheroes that are fighting the swamp in the deep state are going to put on their white hats and their capes, and they're going to take it all back. And that's bullshit too. And that's why they hate what happened in the Capitol, because it did have a showing of at least 100,000, maybe a couple 100,000, maybe even more of people from everywhere that in mass were completely peaceful. And that should be shown, as you're talking about even before the Capitol, of the very, very light and almost non-existent police presence, and how I never saw anybody throughout that even had a National Guard uniform on.
No. And I remember it was like early, maybe like 11 o'clock noon, right before Trump got on Wednesday. I remember looking around with Riss and I was like, man, I have never seen so much people, like so many people. There was no even litter. There was no garbage on the ground where we were standing. I think it's the President's Lawn or the Ellipsis or whatever they called it, the Ellipse. I was blown away by like just the respect people had for their surroundings, which is why what the mainstream media is telling people went on at the Capitol is such a fucking slap in the face. Sorry if I'm not allowed to curse, but and it's like, oh my God, it's like they make you feel crazy. It's like they're all for, and yet when people, there was this tweet of Nancy Pelosi's 2 years ago when people were storming the Capitol building, but it's like, they call it participating in democracy when they do it. When we do it, we're domestic terrorists and we all need to be put down. It's like, there's not only are there different rules for them and us, it's like they make you feel crazy. They make you feel like, we're not even as bad as them, but they make you feel like if you're even a little bit violent or a little bit, there are some outlier crazy people who go and bust it in, which everyone is no one is okay with. Everyone is anti-violence, but it's like, we weren't even a fraction of how bad Antifa and BLM have been, yet we're so much worse. But when they do it, it's called participating in democracy. And like, I think Elijah Schaffer posted this video. It's like a super cut of every time like the Democrats or the leftists have called for violence, called for, all the worst shit, way worse. And conservatives, like, for how crazy they've made conservatives feel, like, I still applaud them for keeping it together. And like, no, and that's the thing is some of us are starting to snap because it's like we're being told that our reality does not exist. And that's what abusive people do. And so it's like, you either have to just pretend it's not going on, right? And those are the people that go into like, well, someone will save me mode, right? And then there's the people that are like, we got to fucking do something about it because we're sick of being pushed down the stairs every day when he gets home drunk. I'm sorry, I'm saying he.
No, you're right. Listen, it's fine. You can misgender the nation or misgender the deep state, or it doesn't. That's fine here because it's a working entity on both ends, right? It gravitates toward these people that want to dominate us. And, I'm going to be doing a video later today because I just couldn't believe it. Last night, I saw that you were on the Union of the Unwanted last night. Congratulations. I'm glad you went over on that podcast. I didn't know what was going on or I would have jumped on. But on I got to spend some time with my nieces. It was fun. They were playing Mario Kart, but I'm throwing on TV. And all of a sudden, I get to Andrew Capo Cuomo giving the State of the State address. Oh, no, have you seen this yet? Have you seen
No, I just saw his tweet about opening up New York again. And I like, other people are like, oh, he's been hacked.
Well, let me tell you something. When you see the set of this thing, it is like something out of the Empire fucking Strikes Back. I'm not exaggerating. So I'm watching it. And I'm like, what is this fuck? What is going the fuck on? Like he's behind dark and then he's got like this blue podium behind him of New York and these side podiums and he's like lit like it's time for the Empire to take over. I'm going to do a watch along later on, guys. I promise you this. But on top of that, he starts talking about how he's going to have 3 more press conferences with basically laying out how he's handing your state over to billionaires and this is it. And sorry if you don't like it. But it gets worse. So he actually at some point talks about economies and regions about to reset, again, on behalf of this great reset we've been talking, and realign. This guy went so full-blown great reset crowd yesterday in what, again, looks like one of the most dystopic realities I've ever seen. Run, Chrissy. Get out of New York. Get out of New York now while you can. I mean, he talked about, again, the entire state of New York being vaccinated. It's something that he's echoed over and over and over again in these press conferences. I didn't up and leave for no reason. And I'll tell you what, one of the best moments last night, guys, and again, thank you to my audience, because without you it wouldn't have been possible, is my one niece was up taking a shower. The other one was still kicking it on Mario Kart. And she looked at me and she goes, my friend asked me if I miss New York. And she goes, well, I told her, I do miss New York, but not as much as I like it here. And I was like, awesome. And I'm like, why? And she's like, well, I get to go to school here. Things are open here. I don't have to wear a mask. Just naming off almost everything that I'm like, exactly why we moved here.
Regular stuff.
Yeah, regular stuff. Yeah, Burmis, that's so 2019 of you, you fuckhead. Get with the times. 2021 is here.
Air without, and I was just learning yesterday on the Union of the Unwanted, Judy Minkowitz was talking.
Yes.
And like while she's talking, I ordered her book, which is called Plague of Corruption. I was amazed that it was even still on Amazon. But she was going through even just breaking down the paper regular blue and white masks that we all have. She's like, yeah, those are sprayed with like some kind of asbestos. Like we're breathing in. She just was putting together, connecting all these dots on how the masks that they're making people wear are part of what makes people sick, because you're like breathing in bacteria and it actually like fires it all up. And I mean, God, that was a really great discussion last night. If you have any questions about the vaccine, she really went into great detail. And I think what I'm going to start doing is like, and I've gone back and forth on whether I'm like, oh, fuck Twitter, should I leave? But it's like, no, I mean, even though I'm losing people every day, it's like there's still 20,000 something people on there. It's like I'll have to go like Titanic violinist, I'm just going to be on there as the ship is going down.
Listen, you got to get me off kicking and screaming on these platforms. First of all, Twitter was never my favorite thing. I was actually a long holdout. I've been on over a decade now. It felt like a long holdout. So many people were trying to get me on there. I was still like clinging to my MySpace. Now it's going to make a comeback. Because I used to love my MySpace. I could customize. It was great. It was so much better than Facebook, which I feel.
Song on there? Come on, no one else is doing that.
I believe I had a YouTube before a Facebook. I'm almost 100%. So I've had my YouTube since 2007. Right? Again, 0 strikes whatsoever for any kind of content or offensive anything. Almost 1,800 videos on there. I'm going kicking and screaming. You're going to have to friggin', let people know you pulled me off. And who knows, maybe I get an alt article about it or someone mentions it, because that's insanity. Like, I have such a stellar record on here backing up what I can say. I'm not threatening. I've called for people for, again, over a decade. This is our civil rights movement, guys. And you better look at your neighbor and reach out to, the BLM activists and the Antifa activists. And they got to reach out to you, because right now, it's all of us. If you don't think they're going to turn it around on the left for the same type of censorship, they're already taking down progressive pages. The real ones that are talking about Julian Assange and anti-war and Medicare for all and force the vote and things that they don't want discussed on that side, right? Because
they don't see it yet because it's not affecting them. And the media have done such a good job at making Trump the most evil person that will now anybody who follows him or voted for him or even even wears a red hat. It doesn't have to be a MAGA hat. Like they're now that anger has to go somewhere. It's trickling down onto 75 or even 80 million voters.
So let's go from the rally that is basically at the ellipse, and then there is the barrier in the middle of the street, and those that wanted to put down their backpacks. All those backpacks, guys, again, all these potential domestic terrorists and all those unattended backpacks with no law enforcement. It's so weird. Doesn't make any sense. If you see something, say something. Again, dueling narratives. You see people start making their way out while Trump is still speaking. And he's talking about a 3:00 union at the Capitol. And I've noticed that the media has never said that from the very beginning, there was to be a rally at the Capitol that was permitted.
Yeah, we were always supposed to be up there. There was you can even pull it up on Twitter now. They were putting out like days or week or so before all the events. It was like there were these 3 meeting points. It was like, here's what's happening Tuesday night. Here's what's happening Wednesday morning. And at 1:00, it's going to be the Capitol. Like these were pre-planned marching points. So it's nothing that Trump said during that speech that like fired everybody up to go over there. It's like, no, this was always part of our March plan. And it's I've heard different theories on why Trump started speaking later. Like he was supposed to go on at 11. He didn't go on until close to 12. And I heard that he was, maybe stalling his speech. He started later and continued on because perhaps that's when some folks were going to go in and steal Pelosi's laptop. And
nonsense.
Regular people getting mixed up in that. Like that's what I've
nonsense.
Heard. There's so many theories out there.
Listen, let's be honest about Trump. Trump is great at speaking off the cuff. If you've watched any of his rallies, and believe me, I've watched many of his rallies, I've watched many of his speeches, and not because I'm a fanboy, because I'm interested in what's going on in the world. Okay? He could talk for 90 minutes plus, no problem, again and again and again. He knows how to play a crowd. And, it was tough because I didn't go on the inside. I didn't want to give up any of my gear and then get stuck in there and be wanded. I stayed on that one thing, which, again, there were so many people on the other side. Why not? But, what I was seeing is he had all those people coming up, and then there was the big wait. I think Eric Trump might have been the last person to talk or something like that, and then there was the big wait. And I think it was that you already had the 3:00 meeting. He had started mentioning meeting people on the Capitol. A lot of people wanted to go out that way, right? You started seeing it. And so many people left that you already had those 2 groups converging up. Now, despite the initial violence, which was small, and remember the gates were so far away from the Capitol, it almost seemed weird. You were there 3 weeks ago, and there was a similar march up to the Department of Justice, which is past the Capitol, which is what was intended, that same walking point so you could get around to the back of the building with these people. But by the time Trump had actually stopped speaking, the Capitol had already been breached, from my understanding, really around that time. And, again, it's hard to get the exact timeline of the violence and the death of the young soldier, et cetera. But all of that was almost 100% over by the time people started getting up on the actual Capitol and taking over the barrier and then getting up the steps and going over that. So at what point do you get to the Capitol building?
Yeah, I remember even like we were on our way because Briss is so small. She's like a hummingbird. So she was like getting really cold. Like I was cold too, but I don't know. I feel like I can like last for a long time in uncomfortable situations. Like my ex-boyfriend. No, for another time. No, but so we're getting cold and we start walking at really, I think it was around, because we gave him an hour and he went on like at 11:53 or something. So at around like 1, it was like a little after 1, we start walking over there, and like maybe it took a half hour, and then so me and Riss were like, we were back away, and I think we were kind of, I know, and then I got a text from Ali Alexander. I don't know if that's his name, but it's like this. I had signed up for these like text alerts from the Stop the Steal people. And I remember getting it late, like, hey, we're all going to meet on the south side of the Capitol building. And then I'm looking at a map. I'm like, oh, I think this is the opposite of where we are. Cause we were back by it wasn't a fountain. It was like a man-made pond or something. And we were back a ways. So we were just like really far back from the building just to sit down. We wanted to like just sit and like, I'm just like eating whatever's at the bottom of my purse. And then we hear like a shot go off, and Ruth was like, "Oh, let's go," because she thought it was a gunshot, and I was like, "I don't think that was a gunshot sound." And we're like waiting, and we're listening, and we're like, "Oh God, I guess that's tear gas that they're starting to like put up on people." Mm-hmm. And then we see people like we're squinting, and we're like, did somebody like get up over the wall? Did somebody like climb into like? We didn't seem to be climbing into the building, but there's this like fence, this like white concrete like fancy, goes with the building fence, not just any kind of scaffolding or man-made fences. I was like, oh, we saw like maybe there was one person up over that, and you don't even know what you're looking at. I'm like, you know what, Riss, like let's go, let's walk in. We see like hundreds of thousands of people like everywhere, and there's no cops. So it honestly was like, oh, this reminds me of like a Central Park situation where just people just walking around. So we walk up, God, and maybe it was closer to like 2 or a little after 2 that we get to, now we're closer to the Capitol building. Now we see like, oh, wow, we see people climbing up the scaffolding. We see people climbing up the bleachers. We see people scaling like the concrete wall, like the photo that like the New York Times or whoever like they love to use that photo of people like climbing the wall. And I remember looking at the wall, like, and I like to rock climb. I was looking at it and be like, man, I bet I could do that. Cause I'm watching it and I'm like, I don't see any girls scaling that wall, and I'm like getting annoyed. I'm like, I bet I could do that. But I have this huge tote bag, like you said, like I have my huge tote bag full of like my gear and my camera stuff. And I just didn't. I was like, like, and now that I see all the great press, people that were climbing the wall, how far those pictures have gotten, it would have been great to just be like on the wall and be like, hey guys.
Unless you're getting charged with domestic terror, which, you wonder. I feel like, the people they're going after are now like the ones that are inside the building. So I don't know if they're going to go after people that scaled whatever. I would hope not. This again was something I talked to Graham about. Are we going after the grandmas that were there in the bleachers that were completely peaceful? Yeah. I go, if someone broke property, if somebody trespassed, okay, you charge them with that. Hopefully, especially in light of the situation, and if they're not violent, you're going to go light on those people. You don't start charging them with domestic terror. Just like I've always said, you don't start charging the person that's ripping down a statue with domestic terror. It's destruction of property. We have laws on the books for that, okay? I have no problem with you enforcing the law. I don't need more laws, especially when you're going to put me into a category when I have no due process, and I have no recourse, and I don't get to face my accusers, and I don't get to give an explanation. And if they want, they could put me in some black site where I'm literally being raped by a broomstick with acid on the end of it. Look up the Abu Ghraib stuff, guys. Please. It happened. And it didn't happen to me, thank God. But, I'm born in the wrong third world nation. If you haven't noticed, I'm not good at shutting my fucking mouth. It could have happened. Like, that's all I'm saying. So you're at the Capitol. You're starting to see, again, you're there before me. You're seeing the scaffolding climb. By then, when I get there, the scaffolding's up. People are kind of on the lawn. And now if people are trying to get to the second level, they're still getting kind of bear maced by the cops, but there's less and less resistance, right?
Yeah. I really didn't see like any cops. And at one point, like I did see like a line, and they almost looked like bike cops because they were in, and I have videos of this. I should probably try and post somewhere. This line of like, they're wearing like black and neon yellow, kind of like cop outfits. And I see a line of them walking kind of like through the crowd, just ignoring everybody. It looked like they may have been walking to the other side of the building, which is, I think, where they were trying to get everybody to meet up. And we were just like, oh, that seems like a long walk. So we just stayed where we were. And I mean, what I did climb up and there was a bunch of us climbing up these small, like kind of temporary little offices, like the construction people were using, like the makeshift, they're kind of like held up by a few blocks of concrete. And I climbed up there because I'm like, man, I'm going to get a great shot up there. But none of us caused any damage on that. In fact, like one of the guys that worked there, like kind of welcomed us in, was like, here, like into the little office room, like, you guys look cold, like have some hot chocolate. Some of us are like charging our phones in there. Like the guy was so chill and helpful.
The insurgency of the hot chocolate, the insurrectionists, they want marshmallows.
Oh yeah. I was like, damn, it's like, yeah, we're domestic terrorists with a hot chocolate and hand warmers. And like the guy was so chill, and he was, telling us all about how, because he was, I think, working to help set up for the inauguration. He was like, yeah, I don't think they're going to sell tickets to the public. It's just going to be the big donors. And and I think Riss may have done a video about, more talking with this guy, but he was so chill. Everyone was so chill and respectful. Like even while there's people climbing on top and coming down and coming inside to charge their phone, he was just like very chill. And he's like, yeah, I get what you guys are doing. And he explained to us there was another kind of temporary like makeshift, like office, outdoor office type thing. And it was down a ways. And he's like, what's the difference between this group of protesters and the protesters we've seen wreaking havoc all summer long? He said, in that office down there, there's probably like 30 to 50 brand new MacBooks, but I can guarantee you they'll all still be there when this crowd leaves. That's the difference between these two groups of protesters. And I was like, wow. Like he's basically telling us. Like,
yeah. Basically, you don't burn and loot.
We're not here to loot, and maybe if there had been a foot action next to the Capitol building, maybe who knows if the media would have been more understanding of us being there. I
doubt it. I doubt it. Like, again, when I was riding into DC, you heard people on the radio more and more telling local residents to stay in their house, not give these people the satisfaction that they were here to do damage. And again, guys, that town was super, super clean when people left. I was there the day after I rode into D.C. It was almost like nothing had even gone on. You saw the remnants of actual, big supporters that had things on the backs of truck beds, etc., cleaning up and getting out of there. But there was no mess at all. So let's look to the future now. Let's talk about some things. The media running with this big story that an armed militia may go to each capital. Now it's interesting because I ended up on a phone call or a Zoom call or whatever the hell they're calling them, a conference call these days with a few people, I guess you would say, more on the right. And the person that put it together actually had mentioned this before it hit the mainstream media, that he was getting intel that this was actually a thing. And, one of the big things about this whole situation is no matter what you believe, the minute people use force against the perceived enemy of the government or some corporate leader or whatever, we start to lose big time. Because their military force is greater, it will be enacted on the people, and I believe the only way to victory is a civil rights movement likened to that of Martin Luther King Jr. with sit-ins, with our local government with us. In other words, elected mayors, elected sheriffs, law enforcement that wants to come with us. That's really, in my opinion, the only way we're going to be successful and somehow going to sway this thing, because if you think they've demonized Trump supporters now or the right now or militias now, the first time a gun is fired, you ain't seen nothing yet. Would you agree?
Yeah, and that's what I really resent about what's being told to the people by the mainstream media. It's like, are you kidding me? Like conservatives, MAGA people, nobody that stormed the Capitol was armed. Like, if the conservative folks and the MAGA folks, the people who came to the rally, if they wanted to storm the Capitol and take it over, they could easily do that. Are you kidding me? These are the people who are Second Amendment folks. And these aren't people who can hang up shelves. They're just physically in better shape. I was like making jokes. I'm like, yeah, this is where if you want to meet a man, come to a MAGA rally. Like, seriously, they're like real, like actual men instead of just like little twinks in black spandex, I'm like, these dudes, we work out, like we have bodies. If they wanted to fucking shoot everybody and take over they could have easily. And now that we see like the lack of police, it's like, are you kidding me? Like, if they wanted to do that, they would have done it. And they didn't. They showed a lot of restraint and they were respectful. And it's like, if out of a few 100,000 people, you have like 50 to 80 who are kooky and jump in, and who knows if they're Antifa or not, or if they were straight up Trump supporters. I'm like, that's pretty damn good odds. If you get that many people show up and you have that few of folks who actually go in and cause damage and nobody came in there with a gun. It's I would call that respectful.
Again, it's just such a different perception versus reality. And I'm urging militias not to be armed. Again, I'll tell you right now, if you've got a militia of 100 people that go up to a Capitol armed, you're going to be 1,000 times less effective than if you still have those 100 people not armed. And instead of having those arms, you reach your arms around other people in your family and community and bring them with you. And now you have 500 or 1,000. If each one of those people brings 5 people instead of 50 bullets, that's so much more effective. And
did you
go ahead.
Did you see, Jason, like this flyer that's circulating? Oh, that there's this armed rally. And I think it's obviously bullshit. I mean, like you even look at the graphics of it. I saw it on Twitter this morning. Oh, it's like, oh, we're going to have an armed rally on January 17th. And I'm like, and everyone, you look at the comments, everyone's like, it's a trap, like using like the Star Wars guy. Like,
well, again, I think it's a bad idea. I think you automatically lose when you try to impose your force on others. People have to realize that this fake news phenomenon, this media phenomenon is not new. It is not going to get better. It is only going to get worse. And one of the other solutions that was talked about, again, other than the grassroots activism in person, on the ground, but our own technology. Because everybody's either on the iOS or they're on some form of Android. Very few are using Linux or anything like that. And, you know, the vast majority, again, are either on an Apple computer or a Windows computer. All of these things are not only tracked, traced, and database now, which any new technology we get, that's going to happen anyway. Yeah, good luck. You're going to have to know some pretty savvy techniques outside of even VPNs if you want your stuff not to be tracked and traced and databased. But now when you're saying you can't be on our app store, you can't even be like a third-party APK where that you can side boot or whatever, and we're going to take away your servers with something like that went as mainline as Parler, because I didn't make a Parler. I wasn't really, again, that's not my thing. I don't have a Snapchat. It's never going to happen, folks. I can promise you that. There's no IG. I don't care if you like what I'm eating at night. I'm not snapping it for you. Like, whatever.
What about TikTok?
What's that?
You're not
no
doing
TikTok.
Coordinated dances?
No. You know what? The kids had the TikTok, and it was annoying the fuck out of me forever. And finally, my sister pulled the plug on it. Thank God, because she realized what poison it was. But no, listen, I'm not here to be a social media fucking superstar. That's never. I'm not an influencer. The only thing I've ever liked about any kind of notoriety is somehow my voice, my perspective, and the media I cover gets out there. And hopefully somebody bigger covers it. And it becomes an issue. Because, we have to be grounded in reality and realize that there's no winning. This isn't a Hollywood fucking movie. There isn't an ending where you ride off into the sunset and it's like, we did it. We did it. We won. No,
we all get our Twitter handles back.
No.
And it's come to this because we haven't had to deal with this in our lifetimes. It's like conservative voices have never been purged from social media like they are now. It's like we just weren't preparing for it. It's like we just didn't think to get our own servers and get our own shit together. So it's like, yeah, Parler is wonky because but you know what? It sometimes takes an event like what's happening now for people to be like, oh, time to get our own nerds, like time to get our own shit together, because we never thought this would happen.
Well, my model again is that you have to make it super easy. Right? It can't be like you got to take it to, because think about how many phones are even jailbroken, or what's the iOS equivalent, or not iOS, Android equivalent. Man, it's killing me because I've done it a million times. But anyway, with custom software and all that other stuff, you usually have to bring it to a tech geek. What I'm proposing is not some kind of jailbreak, a full firmware upgrade, right? And we buy them en masse. And then they are shipped out via website to homes, just like on any other service, whether it be, eBay before they ban you or Amazon. Use their tools before they ban you, not just direct to sales, and get them in the hands of family this Christmas. You know what I mean? That's pretty ambitious. But then these things cannot be censored in the manner they are. And it's already gone way, way, way too far. And like you said, a lot of these people weren't ready because they're so damn mainline. But I assure you guys, Newsmax isn't coming to save you either. OAN, I'm sorry, that's not going to save you. Tucker Carlson, not going to save you. Nobody but you. So, in your opinion, what is the next big move? What are you going to be telling your viewers and audience to do in the coming weeks? Because I have no doubt they're going to try to have, I mean, this is it, folks. There's no Supreme Court going to even look at evidence. Everything that's going to come out is going to come out after the fact. And all of that stuff that comes out after the fact is going to be heavily censored as it comes out. Think about what we're up against. So I'm giving you the floor here for 5-10 minutes. You tell my audience what's next. How do they start kicking ass and taking names?
I know. I hear you. Because it's like, I bet what's going to come out is like, oh, Hunter Biden had a laptop. All right, good night. That's going to be it. It's like, and I don't even know as much, I feel like, as somebody like you, but like, I think just talking to as many people as I can. For me, I'm going to stay on all these apps as long as I can. And I think through comedy, try to drop as many little truth seeds as I can, where that's, like just it was like just today, I reposted somebody's COVID vaccine card, and I was like, oh, like the joke that I put with it, I was like, wow, birth control is so effective, you only need 2 doses. And I'm just going to, like, through smartly and through comedy, do what I can without getting banned or suspended. Like, I have faith in my fans and followers that they're smart enough to, like, read between the lines, and using comedy maybe to get out certain, like, supplement recommendations, and just keep on everything for as long as I can. And I've heard from other folks, like, try not to go anywhere for the next couple weeks. Try to have enough cash on hand.
Nonsense. Listen, I'm going to tell people how it's really going to go down. All right. I had Whitney Webb on yesterday. We were talking about the chaos. The domestic terror thing isn't going away. They are absolutely going to have that be a big push. Let us hope that somebody is not pushed into violence, or that violence is provocatory. Then it accelerates even more. I promise you that. Now, I'm going to have, Will Van Leer on. Now, he's ex-Naval Intelligence. He's a local businessman here. Now, he was on my show a little over a month ago, and he was talking about how the country, no matter what, is going to be unrecognizable on the 21st. They have printed a ton of money. It is not a bad idea to now start stocking up, maybe for 6 months, for a year, just to fight possible hyperinflation or whatever they want to say about the virus. Because you got to understand, now they have a uniparty system. All right? But to think that there's going to be 7 days of darkness, or the Pope's going to get arrested, or someone's in Cheyenne fucking Mountain, no, that's not happening. However, your life will quickly erode once these disasters pull, because it's just a trigger event away. Any type of death. Let me just give you a small example. We had a serial killer over the last weekend. You hear about this yet?
No.
Of course you didn't. Why would you? Okay, now this was the Rockfin exclusive today, folks. So go check it out. And did you know that he was posting on social media as he killed people? Facebook included.
I have not heard a whisper of this.
You want to know why not? Because it doesn't fit any kind of narrative that the media has sold you on. It doesn't fit the white serial killer that hates black people, or is a neo-Nazi, or believes the government is coming to get him narrative.
Maybe he's a white supremacist.
Well, it's not a white supremacist. And number two, it's not a black supremacist either, or a Hispanic supremacist. It's somebody that was absolutely insane, going around shooting random people in Chicago for a 6+ hour period that ranged from people in their 80s to a 15-year-old girl in the head, sitting next to her mother. This is the person behind me. Now, he posted social media. Again, a lot of people are not talking about this. Without police, this would have never ended. It ended up in a shootout where the police killed this man. I wish that they had been on this much sooner in Chicago. But here's the thing. Here he is. He doesn't fit any of the boxes that the media has told you about these mass shooting events. 2, he posted throughout social media, which clearly shows his mental illness, several times throughout the day. Now, had this happened on a Parler or something like that, or a Gab, they would have immediately called for it to be taken down.
Yep, absolutely.
But because this happened on Facebook, they really don't want you to know about it. And he did it throughout the day. He's literally talking about the cars that he may or may not kill the people in.
Wow.
All right. So this is a story that's now been around for a few days. It shows you how information is extremely selective, and narratives are built around what they want you to fear most and whatever political agenda they have in store for you. Her name is Chrissy Mayr. You can follow her at Chrissy Mayr. That is ChrissieMay. Leave the E out. R. Chrissy, where else can they find you? Because you're on about every podcast platform out there, right?
I'm out there. Check out the Chrissy Mayr podcast. It's on iTunes, YouTube, Spotify, SoundCloud. I interview everybody from comedians to like political commentators to porn stars. So it's like everyone from Roger Stone to Nicole Aniston. There's something for everybody on there. And I also do a show called The Wet Spot on Compound Media, Mondays at 7:30 p.m. Eastern. And that's a subscriber-based network. That's like a fun, like sex, dating, relationship, fluffy show, if you will. And and then follow me on all the things. I'm working on getting my Telegram, Rockfin, Rumble, and Locals all up in addition to the classics. So yeah, I have a lot of work to do, but I'm just going to try to be everywhere, doing everything I can.
All right, Chrissy, we appreciate it. Thank you for coming on the show, and we will have you on post-inauguration, hopefully not post-dystopia and apocalypse. All right, sound good?
Sounds good.
All right, later on, Chrissy. So everybody, I want to remind you that we are fully demonetized on this platform. So by the way, if you haven't been over to Rockfin, if you haven't seen that exclusive that I'm talking about, please go check it out. We show you the social media posts. We read the entire article in all of its horrific madness. $5, $10, $15, big donors. Couldn't do it without you. We're fully demonetized here. We're fully being trolled on the channel more than ever. Loose Change, Final Cut, Fabled Enemies, Invisible Empire, A New World Order to Find, and Shade the Motion Picture are free right here, right now. Go check out all my stuff here. Thumbs it up, subscribe, share, join the Burmese Brigade, let people know about the information. And Rockfin, 11 a.m. Monday through Friday. We were live today. Technical issues. People are asking me about a server change. There was a server change because I had to put in a new custom URL and stream key, all that stuff. And then on top of it, it was actually afterwards broadcasting stuff that I hadn't broadcasted. So while they work the bugs out there, I may not simulcast with the other stuff and do re-uploads, but you're going to get me live for sure, 11 a.m. Monday through Friday, and just like we were today, Eastern Time. So check it out. I love you guys. Thank you so much for joining me. I do appreciate it, and I will see you all on the flip side.